Churails ke baad, they were like, do whatever you want to do. So I was like, let me be as unapproachable as I want to be. Mainstream, I don't know. I mean, mainstream cinema is, I don't even know what the status of it is. We get like one, like Mola Jat, I guess would be the mainstream.
But my favorite moment is by God, Surma Lagata Hua Fawad Khan.
Oh, I'm glad I could fulfill your Surma fantasies.
Hi, Asim Abbasi,
Hi,
welcome to my channel. See, your name is right here.
nice to be here.
Right here. See, you like the effort I've put into making this little background?
I love it. It's absolutely gorgeous.
I had to do a little bit of Canva work, okay? Like these two,
But
I had to like pull them
I,
and pull them to the side.
but now, and you're in fairy outfit, and there's pink ghost smoke coming out, so it's.
I'm wearing this for a reason, because this is the color of your show, Barzakh, that is streaming
Yes.
simultaneously on Z, and it's also streaming on YouTube. Firstly, congratulations. 3 episodes are out. The fourth one is about to come.
Yeah, tomorrow.
So why is this
It's going
decision
very quickly.
streaming in 2 places simultaneously? Why is that?
You'll have to ask Shilja that, but she somehow pulled it off. I don't know how Z5 agreed on YouTube as well, but I think it's great because Z5 is not available in Pakistan. So I think what this is allowing is a lot more people to see it.
Yeah.
And I believe it's showing for free on Z5 as well. I'm not sure. Maybe they have a like a AVOD and a SVOD component basically. But yeah, I think it's the accessibility of this. Which is great because initially when Shailja and I had spoken about it, we kind of realized that this is probably, what some would call a niche show.
Yeah.
So,
Good
but to
only.
get
Like,
it,
get it to as many people as possible.
yeah, she was like, I want more people to see it. And if they don't like it, they don't like it. But if they like it, that's good.
Very
So
well
it's
done.
good.
Now, far be it from me to ask a director to explain their work. So I'm not going to ask you what to explain Barzakh, but can you please explain Barzakh? Because I have seen the whole thing. I binged it, and actually I didn't binge it because it's not something that you can binge, because I
Yeah.
felt like I needed to sit with each episode for a little bit and then move on. So I
Yeah.
binged it over a week, if I may.
Yeah.
And um it's so open to interpretation that
Yeah.
the entire show, every single episode. So if you had to explain it, I apologize. But if you had to explain your show, Asim, how would you do it?
The thing is, even I don't know all of it. Because I think the beauty of it, and what I was really trying to, sure, you can say that the storytelling is experimental, and you can say a lot of the components or the way it is shot or etc. is experimental. But what I was truly trying to experiment was trying to make audience sort of a co-writer and a co-creator of this, and
Gosh.
try and make them sort of an active participant. So even if someone says, "Oh, bahut slow hai," the thing is that if you blink or you go on your phone, you're going to miss something or the
Mm.
other. So I
Mm.
feel like the idea was to see how it kind of progresses and how the interpretations, because the characters in the show are also trying to figure this out. It's not like anything is a black and white fact. Even something as like, was Sherazad Mehtab's daughter, and was she sent after being frozen for 30 years in Los Meadows? Yes, that you can infer that. But no one's coming to confirm it. Even when fairies land in episode 6, they don't tell you exactly what happened 30 years ago. So I think that for me was the most exciting part of doing Barzakh, was sort of the audience kind of became like a co-conspirator, so to
Yeah.
speak, and I enjoyed that part of it.
I
But
like
to
that you show
explain,
your hand slowly, slowly. Like in every episode, we learn a little bit
yeah.
about a new character. Then in the next episode, you learn a little bit about another character. But my favorite moment is by God, Surma Lagata Hua Fawad Khan. I did not realize how much I needed that visual in my life to see him go like, like, रूह के अंदर वो image उतर गई मेरे. I'm so happy you included that.
Oh, I'm glad I could fulfill your Surma fantasies.
Well, that's a whole different conversation, Fawad Khan and fantasies. Let's not get into it.
Okay,
But
okay.
would you say that India discovered you with cake in the pandemic in 2020? Because that's when I came to your work first, because everybody was like Netflix khatam kar diya tha logon ne, khatam ho gaye sare platform, kuch nahi bacha dekhne ke liye, so people were actively sharing recommendations with each other, and cake was a recommendation that came to me then, and I was like, who is this person and how is this beautiful story?
I know, and you did a beautiful review on it that I remember, and I was actually shooting for Churails then. So
Hmm.
Sheilja had kind of already discovered me by then, because I think she was kind of more involved in sort of the Pakistani. She was already doing stuff. She had done that Z for Unity thing. She had kind of known Mehreen Jabbar. So I think she had seen Cake and kind of reached out, and sort of we had kind of formed sort of a partnership on Churails. But
Hmm.
yes, you're right, because Churails, Cake, when it came out, like the diaspora kind of knew it, and Pakistan knew it, but it obviously never had a theatrical release in Pakistan, in India, sorry.
Haan ji, haan
And
ji.
then like it was a year or almost 2 years after it had released, yeah, 2 years, because it was
Yeah,
2018 theatrical release, that it
yeah,
came on Netflix. And I
yeah.
think that's when a lot of people from India kind of reached out and sort of, I think, because I think that the story of family and extended families and that connection we have with our parents is so universal for the
Yeah.
subcontinent that I think a lot of people in India kind of connected with it.
Were you surprised with how many people reached you via cake from India specifically?
I was.
Yeah,
Surprised. I was just flattered, I guess. I wasn't like कि इतने लोगों ने कैसे देखी, because I guess I knew Netflix was there and a lot of people were watching it, but that
हाँ,
sort of people were so many people were kind of connecting with it
हाँ,
and kind of like coming back and kind of I know it's like only a few letters when you tweet about it, but it still requires an effort to say that I like this film enough that I'm going to tweet about it. So there was a lot of people on Twitter, etc., who kind of from India who were saying that we was sort of really love the depiction of the dysfunctional family, about parents and aging and all of that stuff. So it was nice. And I think the one thing I actually was surprised by was, of course, I knew how many Hindu Sindhis are there and how many Sindhis are there in India. But that aspect of it had kind of not registered fully with me,
जी.
I guess, because I was so focused on the Pakistani Sindhis and stuff. So the amount of Sindhis everywhere in the world that kind of just said that, oh my God, we've not seen something like this, I think that was quite nice.
I love Churails. I'm a big fan of Churails. I love that series. I love where you take it in like really like sort of unpredictable places. But unpredictability is the baseline of Barzakh, where it starts from. Everything is unpredictable. You don't know what character is going to say what next, do what next. Like I'm not going to give anything away for people who've not started the show, have not watched the show, but like the revelations and the lack of revelations, like some people just know that this is the mountain baby. I'm like, are you gonna explain what a mountain baby is? It's just common knowledge that, anyway, so waiting for people to figure that out on their own. But if you honestly, heart, hand on your heart, which character are you in Barzakh? There has to be someone
Oh
who's
gosh.
you.
I'm all actually my nephew messaged me yesterday and said that I see how you have split yourself between Shahryar and Saifullah. So I feel like it really all of them are, I mean, Shahrazad probably not so much because
Yeah.
she's not even human. So
Yes.
I don't know if I'm not that stoic. But definitely the sons, both of them. And the father, my father was not like that. My father was a very gentle being, but I
Mm.
have come across enough fathers like that. And I think turning into that father is my fear because I have a 10-year-old. So I'm like,
Mm.
I'm really fascinated by the idea of how trauma travels, and how we try and sort of rectify the mistakes that our parents made with our children, but in the process make our own set of mistakes. And it's very hard to completely erase it. And it just really doesn't happen, because no matter how amazing our parents were, even in that, their amazingness, like, this, like, for example, with me, my parents were lovely, and, I had four sisters, and then they had me. So I was young and spoiled and all of that stuff. But I think the amount of times they told me how lucky they felt that they were alive to have me, because they had me very late, and for them that
Hmm.
was a positive. But now, after years of therapy, I kind of realized that all my childhood I was kind of growing up thinking that I feared my parents were going to die any minute. And because I was constantly told that they were very lucky that they were still around. So I think that kind of it doesn't come from a place of badness or, like villainous parents. It just comes from how even joy can transmute and just become something else and kind of become into our own trauma. And so that kind of really fascinated me. And I think that was kind of the genesis of Barzakh for me, was especially from a masculine point of view, because I always make fun about this, that I worked with so many women in Churails, but I just only wanted to work with men in Barzakh. But it was really just that I wanted to explore masculinity from a man's side.
Yeah, no, it is very evident. It is very clear because all the characters are, they are sort of in their own heads, plagued by their own individual demons. But a lot of those demons also have to do with what it means to be a man in the world, in relationships, in social
Yeah.
structures, which who goes out and earns money and who stays at home and takes care of the house and that sort of stuff. Take me a little bit through your inspirations for Barzakh. Have you borrowed from classics like Shakespeare? Have you the imagery, the Masonic sort of A almost that you see in the beginning, and the snake eating its own tail? What are your inspirations from? Like, where all have you taken inspiration from?
I think from a lot of places. I didn't realize the Shakespeare connection till very long, like till much later in the process. So I think that must have been subconscious. Obviously, we've
Sure.
studied Shakespeare and we've
Hmm.
kind of, it's just part of our life. So I think the whole King Lear stuff, etc., was not obvious to me at that point in time. It was only later.
Hmm.
Even the Marquez stuff, kind of only Shailja pointed it out when I kind of sent her the sort of the synopsis and the magical realism part of it. But undoubtedly, I mean, his books are some of my favorites. So, of course, the Latin American influence was there.
Yeah.
But in terms of the sort of the symbolism of it, the mythology of it, it kind of became what was really fascinating to me was the more I researched, the more everything started to converge, whether it was my research into Hinduism or Zoroastrianism or paganism. Everything that I looked at, if I looked deeper and deeper and deeper, they all started to converge. Like an Iranian Persian
बहुत
mythology, which is
overlaps
really
है. Correct, correct, correct.
so even like what they call the drink of God, which is Homa in one place and Soma in another place. It was just the language was changing and the way people were communicating was changing, but it was exactly the same thing. And I think that was the genesis of why it became Land of Nowhere and why it became sort of a non-religious but religious place with a book and everything. But it wasn't
Yeah.
rooted in one specific religion because I kind of wanted to sort of rise above is not the right word, but kind of sort of take it to a level which kind of encompasses all of these religions and all of this, thinking. And then sort of, and then, yeah, I think the research into mythology kind of kept going. And there was of course, there's a big borrowing like the Ouroboros and stuff like that, but it was
Yeah.
all kind of linked to and all started to link like Meherigan, which was kind of I was not even aware of that they had an autumn equinox festival, which kind of sort of was a mirror of the Nowruz.
Yeah.
But when I looked into it, all of that was also kind of sort of linked between cultures and
You look
paganism
into
and
any culture,
humanism.
you will find a festival that is to honor the dead.
Yeah,
Dia de las Muertos. There's every culture,
exactly.
every country, you'll find some or the other festival like that. So in a way, the show is very universal because there is a
Yeah.
lot to relate. Is that something that you kept in mind for people? India में देखेंगे या पाकिस्तान में देखेंगे या अमेरिका में मेक्सिको में देखेंगे?
आई थिंक वो नेचुरली हुआ आई वुड बी
Hmm.
लाइंग इफ आई सेड दैट वो ऑब्जर्वेशन नहीं थी मगर वो जब हुई जब मैंने इतना उसमें रिसर्च कर लिया तो आई वाज लाइक एक्चुअली दिस इज नॉट जस्ट अ पाकिस्तान इंडिया स्टोरी दिस इज kind of like everyone sitting in Latin America will know that these cultures and customs belong to them. Everyone in Iran will remember these
Yeah.
from the in the Parsis and Zoroastrians. So I think it became rather mixed. And I was like, oh, that's a good thing. And
और
I'm
वो
gonna kind
सेटिंग
of
भी कहीं
tap
भी हो
into that.
सकती है जो पहाड़ों की
Hmm.
सेटिंग है इट इज सो sort of generic and beautiful in a way that it can be like I was looking at it, I was like, this could take place in any mountainous
Yeah.
sleepy town with these little cave homes. You go to Turkey, there are still cave homes there.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. I was in Spain recently. There are cave homes that tour guides are like, yeah, these are cave
Yes.
homes. There's whole villages of people who used to live here until very recently. So that was also really striking. Talk to me about designing the visuals of the show, the homes, the really deep colors, and the pink mist versus the red mist and that sort of stuff. Like, did you have a very clear idea of what you wanted the show to look like on a color spectrum visually?
Yes, yes, because I think we all started from the idea of fall, and fall was very the autumn part of it was sort of given from episode one onwards. So I think that the yellows and the oranges kind of already kind of became sort of, this is the palette that it's going to be, because it was all about rebirth. It was
Mm,
about, it happening again. So it was never a spring show. And the whole different story, how difficult it was to shoot within 2 weeks of that fall. But um, so I think that kind of started it. To be honest, the red and the pink was just, so this is gonna sound so pretentious, but like when I'm really into the story, when I'm really into the story, I kind of go through these weird sleep patterns where I dream of things and stuff like that, and it just, and like I become in the story like a lot. So the red and the pink kind of came through. So this sort of middle half asleep, half awake state, and like
amazing.
me and Ari, my production designer, had long conversations. He was like, "Oh, the bright red is not gonna look good," and I was like, "Just please trust me on this. I need this to be red and I need the ghost to be the pink." And I have no logic for it, but it just, I believe it in my heart. And that's the colors that I want for that. But everything else was around the fall palette. We were lucky, very lucky that we got the Mir of Hunza, his
Hmm.
house, to shoot it. So that's where the interiors of the palace are. And we had a great person from Hunza who was sort of, he's also a creative writer and director who was very involved in this sort of the script stage. So when he read it, he was like, "I have the place right in mind. I don't know if they're going to give it, but we should approach these guys." And luckily we were able to get it, because no actual hotel in Hunza would be able to capture what we were trying to capture with this sort of place.
Hmm.
And the circle and all of that stuff, it was all there. It wasn't something that we had to design. Our design efforts were primarily towards the atrium, which was a construction right next
Yes.
to the thing. The
Yes.
tree was built, which was replicating an original tree. So
Right.
that had to be kind of modeled and kind of brought and built in a different place.
Right.
So I think that was our biggest design thing, was the tree.
You spoke briefly recently about recently, yeah, abhi 2 minute pehle about your
Hmm.
when you were writing and realizing that all cultures and things like that. But is there a part of your childhood in here as well from the stories that you heard as a child about mountains and fairies and pariyan and log or pyar or mohabbat jo aap isme
Oh
lekar
yeah,
aaye?
of course. I mean,
है ना?
Sherazad is the narrator of the story, so
परी
Arabian
है वो
Nights and
तो.
all of those things were, of course, were a big part of it. We of course had, in our stories, had a lot more jinns, and I kind of just
Ah.
wasn't. I was like, that's a whole different world that I kind of didn't want to go into. But a lot of it came actually just looking at Hunza as well. Hunza has a very strong culture of paris, and
Hmm.
they believe on the other side of the mountains paris live, but their paris are meant to be very tall, unlike what you would western paris. And this and the shaman thing is very real, because every occasion or specific occasions, they have what is called juniper leaves, which basically grow
Sure.
in Hunza everywhere,
मैं
and they
जिन
kind of
पीती हूँ ना
smoke.
उसकी
And if
उसी
you're
की बनती है ना जिन जुनेपर की.
So if you're a shaman, if you do it, then you can connect to the paris and stuff. So all of
Love
that
this.
storyline kind of came from there. So yeah, there's a rich history there, and there's a lot of stories around mountains. Like even the first time when I was 6 years old, when I visited the mountains with my family, there was always like, "Ooh, what lives on the other side of the mountain?" So I think that's just so ingrained within all of us.
Yeah, I feel like you were like that little child who spoke beyond his age. The actor who plays Fawad Khan
I
in the
watched
film.
horror films when I was a kid. Yeah.
And like the all adults around you are horrified at all times. ये बंदा बोल क्या रहा है ये मतलब why is this child talking about like really non talking about things. um the land of nowhere, does that concept open you up to play around as much as you want, create your own reality and create your own world, or does that limit you in some ways, or does that open you up?
No, I think it kind of opened me up. It opened me up also, like the themes that I was talking about, and there's a book, and that's, so I didn't want anyone saying that, "Oh, you were talking about Islam, or you're talking about Hinduism, or you're talking about specifically Pakistan, you're talking about India." I just wanted to
It is nowhere.
rise above all of that stuff. And I kind of thought that
Yeah.
this idea of this place that could be anywhere and nowhere kind of allowed me. That was probably a strategic thing initially, to be honest. It
Yeah,
was a strategic
I
thing
love
because I
that.
was like, I don't want unnecessary conversation. Abhi, like, a small plot point about the elder son being gay, and episode 3 has come out, and they have that almost kiss. And the last 2 days, all the conversations have been around, simply around my LGBT agenda, which there is
That
no
is so
agenda, but
unfortunate because that is my freaking favorite plot line. The elder son and his demons, because his demons are so layered, so much more layered than anyone even realizes. And his
yeah.
sort of plot line as that progresses and where he lands up versus his arc is my most favorite from beginning to end. Just
Amazing. I'm so happy
unfortunate.
to hear that.
No, it really like it really is like I really felt like myself getting emotional, specifically in the scenes that the audience will see later on when he's in spending an alone time with the man. I don't want to reveal who it is, but it's really really cool. And that's really unfortunate that that's become an area of contention.
Yeah. So I think I was worried that if I had rooted it even more in a
Mm,
specific place, those things would have doubled, tripled in terms of the noise. And I was like, I want this to be as noise free as I can make it. And anyway, I think that because of, as I said, we were going with universal symbolism, it kind
mm,
of made sense for me to kind of base it in a sort of a nowhere land. It was also like sort of a nod to in Islamic Sufism. There's a lot about Barzakh and veiled worlds, but also this really difficult concept that I've never gotten my head around, which is that they believe that there's a world of suspended images, which is basically not not a veiled world as such, but it's an in-between world which is kind of just made up of images. It's a really fascinating but a really difficult topic. But they say that that world is known as Land of Nowhere. So kind of
mm.
that when I was looking into that, I was like, oh, this feels like an interesting thing to just, do
पर
an homage to
आपको
this really
ये डर नहीं
complicated
लगता है
philosophy.
आसिम, ये डर नहीं लगता है कि थोड़ा
हम्म।
अनअप्रोचेबल ना हो जाए कुछ लोगों के लिए?
हाँ नहीं, डर नहीं था, एक्साइटमेंट थी, क्योंकि चुड़ैल्स के बाद they were like do whatever you want to do, so I was like let me be as unapproachable as I want to be.
ये
Why
लो
not? हाँ क्यों नहीं, क्योंकि अभी ये अपॉर्चुनिटी आपको जिंदगी में कितनी दफा मिलती है कि
हाँ,
आपको कोई ब्लैंक कैनवस दे और बोले कि बच्चे जाओ जो करना है करो।
बड़े से बड़े स्टार मिलेंगे,
हाँ।
सबसे बड़े स्टार मिलेंगे काम करने के लिए.
So, but that was the thing, no? The thing was that it was like a really open slate for me, and I was like I'm gonna make it as bloated as I like my stories. I'm gonna put as much stuff in it, and I'm
That
going
is
to overwhelm
brave.
people. I'm gonna make it complicated, and I'm gonna just have fun, and I am going to make it for myself. And I think that truly, and I don't think I will do this ever again because no one's going to let me. But
That's what I was
but
thinking
just this
as it
one
went
time.
on. That ki, how brave you have really stuck your neck out and been like, मुझे ये कहना है, तुम्हें समझ में आए या नहीं आए, that's not my problem. This is the story I want to say. If you're allowing me to say it, that's the
Yeah, I think that, yeah, and kudos again to my producer. Like, you don't get producers like Shilja where like they back a mad person like that without even trying to steer you in the right position. She was like, "Oh, this is what you want to go, do it." I was like, "Okay."
बट सब बहुत एक्साइटेड है. मैं थोड़ा थोड़ा देख रही थी पाकिस्तानी मीडिया की कवरेज. ज्यादा मुझे शायद मैंने मिस कर दिया, मुझे ज्यादा डिटेल में कवरेज अभी तक मिली नहीं है. मे बी पीपल आर वेटिंग टू फिनिश द होल सीजन एंड देन टॉक अबाउट इट अ लिटिल बिट. बट आई वाज टॉकिंग विद ब्रीफली विद साइम सादिक एंड ही वाज लाइक, प्लीज टेल मी व्हाट यू थॉट ऑफ द शो. आई वाज लाइक, फर्स्ट लेट मी टॉक टू आसिम. I will get that conversation out of my system, and then I will chat with you
Okay.
about what I thought of the show. Um, speaking of Sam, incredible couple of years for Pakistani cinema in the global space
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Joyland. Joyland like doesn't stop traveling. It's still traveling. It's going to a
yeah,
new city in some new country in the world. With In
yeah,
Flames, that a film that
yeah.
absolutely devastated me. It like
I still haven't seen
destroyed me.
it. I still haven't seen In Flames. I'm so
Zarar Khan.
I
I
really.
watched it at Cannes last year, and
Yeah.
it destroyed me. It is so good. It
Oh
is so
wow.
so good. Um, how are you looking at Pakistani mainstream cinema and entertainment right now with regards to the rest of the world and reaching out to various other people outside of Pakistan as well?
Mainstream, I don't know. I mean, mainstream cinema is, I don't even know what the status of it is. We get like one, like Mola Jat, I guess would be the mainstream, right? And that was fun. And it was a good watch and it did really phenomenally well, but it was
Hanji.
now years ago, right? And to be churning out something good after so long, I think it's complicated. And the thing is, like I love Joyland and I love Zindagi Tamasha. I don't know if you've seen it. In Flames, I have not seen, but
Mm.
that was Salman's film. But these are great films that are sort of just chopped off before you even enter the world. And I'm talking within Pakistan. So I think
Mm.
how do you build that bridge between international Pakistan when your local country is not even showing that content, or it's
Giving you
it's
that
censoring it
space.
in a way that it loses, like I know my favorite scene from sort of Joyland was the one where they're trying to be intimate with each other but don't know exactly how to be, and I thought it was beautiful, but I don't think that made it to the Pakistan cut. So
Yeah, we did a screening here in Washington, D.C. last year at the Smithsonian. And I was just talking to the audience after the screening got over. And there was a girl from Islamabad, and she's like, this is a different film than I
yeah,
watched in Islamabad. There's just additional scenes in here that were just never there when I
yeah.
watched it.
Yeah.
I hear
So
you.
I think it's difficult, and I think, but of course, and you know the film festival world even better than me. Those films take years of development and take years of getting them right and getting them out, and and the exposure that comes with it, it's slow. And but when it happens, it happens. But the process of, like, even Simon's process is long. Zerard's process has been so long. He's been trying to get it stuff. So there isn't a usual. We need a local market where there is also sort of some kind of a audience and box office thing where I can actually do content on a more regular basis. Like,
Yeah.
if I don't have Zindagi and Shield Up, all my work is going to come from the UK, where I'm kind of directing and I'm sort of writing as well, sort of, a little more mainstream stuff. But like within Pakistan, it's a little tragic, and it's so linked to culture and society that I don't know what the future is, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I hope the future is bright, and I hope you get to do really what you want to do and make your stuff even more bloated. Who gives a fuck? Just make what you want to make, Azim. I really hope that you get that that playground to play with.
Thank you.
I will redact one statement, though I did say that my favorite subplot is the elder brother, but I think my favorite moment from the show, Fawad Surma aside, is in the final episode when everyone, should I say it? Should I say it? Should I say
Jay,
it, or should we wait for people to watch it?
when are you releasing this? I don't know.
Like soon? I don't know. I can hold on for a little bit longer, but when everyone starts to sing, uh, holy shit, that is so powerful, especially for a pre-climax moment in the story. It is very,
Yeah.
very powerful. So that's all your actors doing their own singing, yeah?
Yes.
Amazing. Fawad Khan गा भी सकता है.
Of course, Fawad Khan ga sakta hai. He was part
Correct.
of a band before he was an
Correct, correct,
actor.
correct. Before we met him, he was actually सारे सभी गा सकते हैं. आपके कौन से एक्टर्स हैं ऐसे पाकिस्तान में जिनको दुनिया जानती है जो गाना नहीं गाते? सभी तो इतने टैलेंटेड है. But that is actually my favorite moment in the show. Congratulations for everything that has happened so far. And I really
Thank you.
hope that more and more people get to watch Barzakh. And even if they don't understand it, they talk about it. They write think pieces on interpreting the show. I really hope that.
Yes, and they become active participants, and then my work's done.
मुझे फवाद का इंटरव्यू करना है. वो आपसे मुलाकात हो तो उन्हें बोल देना कि सुचारदा ने
ठीक.
करना है तुम्हारा इंटरव्यू, कर लो प्लीज, एक बार मिल लो प्लीज. I met him very very
सही
long
है.
ago for खूबसूरत. उसके बाद तो खैर गायब ही हो गए वो. But
हाँ, of course.
for
Good days.
reasons out of all of our controls. Tragic. Thank you, Asim. This was really
It was
lovely.
lovely meeting you. Take care.
Bye.